There's a major update this week in the Vince McMahon sex trafficking lawsuit, as his co-defendant, John Laurinaitis, people power, has now agreed to cooperate and provide evidence to Janel Grant and her team in her bombshell lawsuit against McMahon, Laurinaitis, and WWE. Laurinaitis has also reached a confidential settlement with Grant. This is according to a statement issued by both of their reps on Wednesday. Per CNBC, a filing Wednesday in U.S. District Court in Connecticut shows that lawyers for Grant and Laurinaitis agreed to dismiss her lawsuit as it pertains to Laurinaitis only, with prejudice, which means that it cannot be refiled. John Laurinaitis has agreed to cooperate and provide evidence in Janel Grant's lawsuit against Vince McMahon and WWE, the rep said in a statement. His agreement to a confidential settlement is a pivotal next step toward holding McMahon and WWE accountable and bringing justice to Ms. Grant after years of sexual abuse and trafficking. Mr. Laurinaitis looks forward to moving on with his life. We cannot provide any additional details at this time. Jessica Rosenberg, who is a lawyer for Vince McMahon, in a statement to CNBC said, "Today's dismissal of John Laurinaitis as a defendant does not alter the facts of this case in any way. Vince McMahon never mistreated Janel Grant. No matter how many press releases her team issues, the truth remains unchanged." As Mr. Laurinaitis' lawyer previously said, Mr. Laurinaitis corroborates Mr. McMahon in publicly declaring that Ms. Grant's allegations of sexual abuse and coercion in her complaint are completely unfounded. Grant's lawsuit against McMahon and WWE alleges that McMahon lured her with promises of career advancement and then allegedly exploited and trafficked her to other men inside the company. Grant signed a non-disclosure agreement in 2022 with McMahon, agreeing to a payment of $3 million to not publicly disparage him or discuss their relationship. She alleges in the suit that he stopped making payments after the first $1 million of that was received. Her lawsuit is seeking to void the NDA and additional financial damages. The case is currently awaiting a ruling on whether it will be sent to private arbitration. Lawyers for the defendants have until June 13th to refile their motion to compel arbitration. Grant's team will have until June 23rd to respond, and a decision will be made after that. Earlier this month, a federal judge granted Grant's request to file an amended complaint to include information regarding WWE's settlement with the SEC over undisclosed payments, expanded allegations of abuse, the naming of alleged enablers, and efforts to obtain medical records from a doctor that she alleges was paid by McMahon. So this makes the second time that he has switched sides in this case. When the suit was first filed, remember, Laurinaitis' attorney at the time said that he was also a victim of Vince McMahon. He basically threw Vince under the Lex Express. And he said at the time, he's like the plaintiff, Laurinaitis is also a victim in this case. Read the allegations and count how many times in the complaint McMahon exerts control over them. Johnny Boy is a victim too. But then 3 months later, Laurinaitis changed his tune and said that he supported McMahon and that he would fight right alongside him, and her allegations were baseless. So now he's flipped again to the other side of the track. He better be able to provide some solid evidence for whatever they're looking for, because this guy has flipped more times than a burger on July 4th. I wouldn't find him to be the most credible witness in the world, because he'll say whatever he has to just to save his own skin. But they obviously feel he has something, or he knows something that could be helpful to their case. Now, why this happened now, before the judge made her ruling on whether the case should go to trial or arbitration, I don't know. If it went to arbitration, it would be focused on how much money she is owed by Vince, based on the NDA that she signed. And if he, should be on the hook for the remaining $2 million that he owes her. That wouldn't have anything to do with Johnny Ace. And that ruling is expected to come down very soon. So he could have ended up going this same route then, but he chose to do so now, which I find kind of interesting. So she gets a confidential settlement out of it with him. As far as Vince, it all comes down to what the judge decides. If it goes to arbitration, that may not work out well for her. She wants it to go to court and to go through discovery, and I just can't see Vince not making her an offer to settle this and just make all of this go away. He paid off Rita Chatterton. And how many years later was it, since that alleged incident where she claimed that, he raped her in the back of his limousine. And she's had that story for years and years. That was a known thing. And then a few years ago, he finally paid her off to make her go away, because I think at the time he was trying to get back into WWE. Let's make all this go away. I think that, you're looking at a similar situation here. I think in the end, she settles for a few $1 million and is barred from saying anything negative about Vince. I know some people are clamoring for this to go to trial and for whatever else, there may be to come out publicly. But remember, this is a civil case. This is not a criminal case. Vince McMahon is not going to prison. At worst, he's going to end up owing this woman a great deal of money. He'll do whatever he needs to do to spare himself any further embarrassment. And this woman is going to get on with her life, because the only reason she came forward with this in the first place was because he stopped paying her. Now, that doesn't mean that all of these other things didn't happen to her. It's awful. But it just means that if he would have stuck to the terms that they agreed to, we would not be talking about this right now. And Vince McMahon would very likely still be running WWE. The money is what led us to this point. I don't see him offering to settle for millions more than what she was owed and her turning that down. Again, it's civil. It's not criminal. Vince knows he can make this go away if push comes to shove, and that's what I expect is going to end up happening here. At which point we'll hear more about what his plans are for the future and this new company that he started. I think they're just waiting for this to be settled. But on that note, Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics this week reported that McMahon has launched a new business venture, forming a private investment firm called 14th and I, the letter I, pursuing opportunities in sports, media, and entertainment. And public filings show McMahon registered 3 LLCs in September of last year for 14th and I Holdings, LLC, 14th and I Investments, LLC, and 14th and I Management, LLC. And Brad Blum, a former WWE executive and longtime ally of McMahon, is the president of 14th and I. The name of the firm is a reference to where his father's old Capital Wrestling Corporation headquarters used to be located, at the corner of 14th and I in Washington, D.C. And there's something else involving Vince that was floating around this week that I wanted to address because it's just so ridiculous. There was a tweet from Chris Featherstone of Sportskeeda where he said, "I was given word from a source close to the situation that Vince McMahon is interested in buying back WWE. I received more details, but we will see how this develops." Ah, yes. So, of course, people made a mountain out of a molehill with this. Oh, I'm sure Vince McMahon is very interested in buying back WWE. Tony Khan may be interested in buying WWE. Doesn't mean he's got a prayer of actually doing it. But by God, he may be interested. But he tweets this out knowing that people are going to run with it and make more out of it than there is, because that's what social media does. So technically, you see, he's not wrong. Look, Vince McMahon is not buying back WWE. Then you have Jonathan Coachman, who spoke recently about the potential for Vince to return to the company. This may well have been where Featherstone got his info, for all we know, because his tweet came days after Coachman apparently talked about this. But Coachman had a post on social media clarifying that he never actually said that Vince was trying to buy back WWE, only that he has shown interest in buying back WWE under the right circumstances. If things went back for, let's say things went downhill for TKO in the next 5 years, and WWE became available, he said, then Vince would be interested in buying it back. The fucking mosquito that I squashed this morning could have told you that. Yes, of course, under the right circumstances, if WWE became available for purchase, I think Vince McMahon, the man who ran the company for 40 years, might just be interested in making an offer. This is not news. And you shouldn't treat it as news, because there was no actual news that he or any of these people actually reported. So we'll clear this up real fast. For the handful of emails I got about this week, no, Vince McMahon is not buying back WWE. Endeavor, TKO, what have you, is not selling WWE. nor is Vince McMahon coming back to WWE. And if anybody else is trying to peddle this nonsense to you as actual news, then those are people that you should not be following.